do dispatchers do? So dispatchers are actually masters of logistics. And yes, that's not something which I take lightly. We are masters of logistics, because if you are a good dispatcher, well, first, what do? Well, you organize the work of your carrier very well, and he is keep moving, because the first thing what dispatchers do, we find the loads from A to B, from B to C, from C back to A, or maybe you have a driver who never goes back, so you just keep rolling him all over USA. Hopefully not, because still, when you start at some point, you need to finish at that point eventually, correct? So, what else do? Besides that we are posting our equipment, besides that we are making the phone calls, besides that we are answering those phone calls, well, the biggest part of our job is to negotiate those rates, right? Especially in this market. And let me see, how many of you are getting $5 per mile? How many of you are getting $4 per mile? How many of you are averaging $3 per mile right now? And let's not talk about one load. Let's not talk about two loads. And let's talk about your average rate per mile. How many of you right now in the USA are running at $3 per mile? Well, probably if you are honest and if you are looking for the whole month, let's say January, I don't think that you are averaging $3 per mile, unless what? Unless you're taking partials, unless you have specialty equipment, and unless you are running shorter loads, regional loads. But let's agree today, we're gonna talk about a regular guy who is not faking that ELD, the guy who is pushing his logbook, and let's say he drives from 32 to 34 miles a week. Can we agree on that? Because when you guys gonna start throwing the numbers in the air, well then also mention, I'm running illegal ELD, I am taking the team loads, and if you even do that, still you're not averaging $3 per mile. Maybe your gross is higher, but if you do calculate, you're probably still at 240, 250, it depends on the equipment. So just now we are covered two big responsibilities of dispatcher: posting the equipment, answering the phone calls, arranging those loads. Without sitting in the middle of nowhere without loads, without probably big gaps, and hopefully at least being at national average rates. So what is the third task that we do as a dispatcher? Well, we need to plan optimal routes. So what does it mean, optimal route? Does it mean that I have to make sure that my driver doesn't have tolls, make sure that he goes around wait station? What is that optimal route? Well, the optimal routes, it means if I'm taking the load to East Coast and I need to take that 76, the most expensive toll, at least I understand this and ask for extra money. If I am not hitting that rate per mile that will cover the cost of those tolls, that probably this is not optimal route for my driver and I should not book that load. What about going and calculating the routes which really we do not take? Let's talk about routes through Colorado, right? Route 70 or some Yellowstone routes, because when you guys are looking at the map, remember, we are dispatching semi-trucks. Not every route is gonna be working for our truck. We are not driving a little Porsche, BMW, or Chevy, or whatever you drive, right? We are operating the huge semi-truck, 80,000 legal weight, so probably some loads will not make sense. If they are going through mountains, if they are too heavy, if there is a tolls, and they do not pay you enough to cover all of that, stop taking that BS. Leave it to desperate dispatchers. Leave it to carriers who do not know what the hell they are doing. We have enough of those. So as a pro dispatcher, make sure that you understand What does it mean? Optimal routes, right? Next one. Well, do you know safety and compliance? Do you at least as a dispatcher understand the permits in certain states? So let's go over this really fast. Nowadays we have 5 states. When your truck is going through that state, you need to have a permit. It can be temporary permit, it can be one trip permit, it can be annual permit. I don't care what type of permit you have, but you need to know those states. So those states are Connecticut, which we added in the last year and a half, 2 years, correct? We have New York, our lovely New York State with their hot sticker. You'd better make sure you have that hot sticker right on a bumper of your truck where your driver is sitting. Then we go into Kentucky, and you should have the KYU number account display on your truck. Where is my little trucks? I don't know, they're not in front of me right now. Oh, actually it is. The beautiful baby truck, my RTS truck. So KYU and the account number for the company. Then you going through New Mexico. Well, in New Mexico you can get temporary or you can have annual permit. Annual permit is $10. They will need the plate for your truck, the VIN number, if it's your truck, leased, company truck, and that's it. $10 and you are all good to go. But remember, you still have to pay all those taxes, if the taxes quarterly, or if you are annual filer in New York, then you do it once a year. But all of that is already compliance, safety, and compliance. But as a dispatcher, do you need to have a clue? Yes, yes, and yes. What else? Oregon. Who loves Oregon? Tell me, how many people love to deal with Oregon? Is that cheap? Well, it's not that cheap. And don't think that you're gonna be so smart and your truck is gonna go at night and he's just gonna cross from Washington through Oregon. They take pictures of you. You do not want to mess with Oregon. And you'd better have your permit, because your poor guy cannot even fuel in Oregon if he does not have that permit. So as a dispatcher, do you need to understand simple regulations for trucking industry? Yes. My advice for you, start with hours of service, permits, trucking permits, IFTA filings, and the registrations that we need to do as a carrier. That's a must, because if your truck is loaded and you need to deliver that load tomorrow and you simply don't have UCR registration, or you forgot to put your IFTA sticker, what's gonna happen? You're gonna receive out of service. Now you're late for delivery. Now the broker is gonna put that note for you that you are not reliable company, and that's it. You killed your own future with your own dispatch hands, right? Or you as a carrier who has no clue how to run this business. So educate yourself, please. Educate yourself. Well, most of you learn how to dispatch. You took the trainings, or you coming up for trainings. You're watching YouTubers like me and all other gurus, trucking gurus. You go to TikTok. Let's say you already know how to dispatch. You have access to load boards. You learn the commodities. You even have a script, right? Calling about posted load. Can I have details? What time is it picking up? When is it delivering? What is the commodity? Is it going to be palletized? Is that going to be actually delivering at certain time? So all of that you guys already learned, right? So what's gonna happen now? Well, now we're gonna make sure that you becoming an independent dispatcher, because if you decide to be a company dispatcher, well, this is not a really smart idea, because it's very stressful. They don't really gonna compensate you enough. So most of you who are coming to this business, you want to have now your independent dispatch service. So how